and share is going to be a great conversation as we do Kingdom Academy tonight. Come on in, like and share, like and share. We're not going to be up here all night, but we're going to have a powerful, effective conversation. We want you to get in on the conversation. Come on in, like and share. We're going to have a great conversation about the kingdom and how the kingdom of God operates as it relates to uh, the power of the kingdom, the attitude of the kingdom, why we are dealing with the issues that we're dealing with as it relates to the kingdom. Is going to be great, and of course, we want you to be a part. So come in, like and share, like and share, like and share. We're going to give you a few minutes to get on. Those of you that come on, this is Kingdom Academy. We're going to have a great discussion tonight. We're going to talk about some powerful things as it relates to how the kingdom is affected. Just some real conversations. We want you to be a part of those conversations tonight. So come on in, come on in. Let's talk about it. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. Come on in, come on in. It's going to be good. We want you to share. We want you to let people know that we're here. We got some things that we want to discuss, some things that may be or present to some people a conflict in terms of what they understand about church, religion versus the kingdom versus the political aspects of what it is. We want people to get a greater understanding of the kingdom. That's why Kingdom Academy is here. Kingdom Academy is here to share with you the revelation of the kingdom. And I want you to have an understanding of the kingdom. What did Jesus preach? He preached the kingdom of heaven is at hand. He told his disciples to go preaching the gospel of the kingdom. So this is what this focus is tonight. For a few minutes, we want to talk about that. We want to share some insightful things with you and help you understand that there's a difference in kingdom, there's a difference in culture. We want to talk about how culture affects kingdom, how religion has blocked the attitude and the understanding of the kingdom. And so we're thankful and grateful for those of you that are coming in. Stay with us for a few minutes. I'm not going to be here all night. We're going to share some powerful information with you, and you're going to get blessed by the information I'm going to share. All right. So we understand that Jesus came, and when he came to expose the kingdom. He came to preach the kingdom. He came to introduce the kingdom. He said the kingdom of heaven is at hand. So every kingdom has a king. Every kingdom has an administration. Every kingdom has a process by which that kingdom functions. And when you understand that, then you begin to see the difference in what is considered kingdom, what is considered religion, what is considered politics, and how all of this came into play. So I explained last week the very after Jesus resurrected from the dead, there was a season, there was a period of time where there was nothing written concerning what Jesus said. And so about 60 AD, those began to write, those writers began to explain, as we see in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they begin to explain mostly by verbal tradition, but then in that day that they were in, they wrote on papyrus or a sheet of paper where it wasn't even paper, it was made out of wood, that they would be able to express what they experienced or what they heard as it relates to Jesus. Now, you're talking about 60 years after Jesus was raised from the dead that we start receiving those things that are written about him: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. In the meantime, what we have to understand is this: that uh, this Christ, this kingdom that was discussed, has always suffered conflict. Why? Because the powers that be, even the religious powers that be, do not want you to hear about the kingdom. They don't want you to be affected by the kingdom because Jesus pronounced the kingdom and what the kingdom will do once you embrace the kingdom. Once you're born into the kingdom, he shares with us that we will have a great benefit of abundant life in the kingdom. No wonder nobody wants to hear about the kingdom for the most part. Religion is the hindrance to the kingdom. Now, I'm going to show you this because I want you to look at it from a historical perspective, and we're dealing with that same situation on today. It was not until Constantine became a Christian that Christianity, as we know it, was embraced by those in the age around 330 AD. I want you to understand that around that time, the king got into bed with the religious party. So there's two parties of influence. There's the religious party, and there's the governmental party. Constantine, being the king at that point, he used his influence and his conversion, so called, to Christianity to then bind and come into a covenant relationship with the priestly role or the religious sect. They got into bed together. Why? Because when you have the political power, the governmental structure to be able to manipulate people, and when you have the spiritual influence over people to manipulate them, control them, and get them to where you want them to be, then you have the perfect scenario because you have both the governmental position and you have the priestly position working together in unison. And in those two, when the government needs spiritual influence to get those believers to go along with whatever the agenda is, then you also have when the spiritual aspects of the community, the priest, the pope, when they have a issue, they can have the government to partner with them. Therefore, this partnership, this covenant between the government and the religion has been going on a long time. Now, notice when Jesus came into the earth, born in Bethlehem, there was a consideration of both the religious people, the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who had a issue with that. Also, you had a governmental issue because Herod wanted to destroy the people of God. I'm trying to give you some information here. And so when you look at that, you see the government working together with the elite religious leadership in order to try to restrict and destroy Jesus. Herod put out a mandate after he could not find Jesus that every child under 3.5 years old should be killed. It was a slaughter that took place because Herod did not like the threat of this new kingdom entity, this new king. They called him a king. And so automatically, a king is going to establish a kingdom. That became a threat not only to the governmental structure, Herod and his cabinet, but it also became a threat to all of those who were religious leaders at that time. You got to understand, these guys that do religion are not going to give up their religion. They're not going to give up their control. They're not going to give up their power without a fight. So then you have, once again, the government and the spiritual leaders or the religious leaders of that day coming together to stop the kingdom of God from being promoted. Are you getting what I'm saying? So we see that same spirit. We see that same spirit today as many religious people embrace and get into bed with political people in order to maintain power, control, and influence. And so then, as kingdom people, what is our position? As kingdom people, how do we respond to the influences? Be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. How do we deal with the issue that we now have the influence of the government? We have the influence of religious leaders that have now made covenant with the political community So where does kingdom stand? It stands just where it stood when Jesus came preaching the kingdom, and the religious sector began to fight against him. The government tried to destroy him. And in order to kill or crucify Jesus, it meant that the religious leaders had to push the agenda of getting Jesus crucified. It was the religious leaders that had Jesus crucified, and they partnered with the governor. Pilate said, I find no fault in the man. He washed his hands of the man. But at the same time, he allowed the religious leaders that he depended on to keep the people thinking that they were serving God in order, keeping them in their place, keeping them where they needed to be, doing what they needed to do to keep everything in harmony and peace. So this covenant between religion and government is a ungodly covenant that then prohibits and restricts the ability of the expansion of the kingdom. And so we have to understand that, we got to realize that, and we have to stay in a position where we promote kingdom over government. We promote kingdom over religion. I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote as a citizen. I'm not saying that you should not do your part. But what I am saying, you should not put the kind of weight of the kingdom on the government to take care of God's people. You should not allow religions to prohibit your ability to understand the kingdom and how the kingdom works, how the kingdom functions, and what it is that Jesus came to do. I told you last week, do you see Jesus attaching himself to any political party? I just want to ask. Do you see Jesus establishing or getting himself into any situation where he's connected to a religious system? uh, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, those that would rather see Jesus destroyed rather than to hear about the kingdom. I'm telling you again, it was not the sinner, the people that we beat up on. It was not the prostitute. It was not the drug addict. It was not the tax collector. It was not those people that killed Jesus. It was the religious system that refused to hear and convert to the kingdom that set out to destroy and to eradicate the power of God through the kingdom. So we got to understand that. We got to look at that. We got to expect to see and understand that that's what's happening. And of course, most people, because they don't understand the kingdom, they're not trying to understand the kingdom. They then understand that they enjoy religion, they enjoy shouting, they enjoy all the things that do everything but produce discipleship, right? The kingdom produced discipleship. The kingdom had people who were willing to deny themselves, take up their cross, and be consistent in following the mandates of the kingdom. And when we're in this modern day time, don't a lot of people don't want to hear about the kingdom. They love church. I've heard people say, I love me some church. Oh Lord, I want to go to church and have me a good time. I want to go to church and fall out. I want to go to church and shout. I want to go to church and do all those things just to feel the presence of the Lord. That is not kingdom. Kingdom is you are intentional about coming into the kingdom of God, realizing you have to deny yourself, take up your cross, responsibility, get involved in the kingdom, and follow. Now, when you look at most religious institutions today, you will not see that attitude or that spirit in functioning in that organization. You see an organization that everybody wants to get a good word, everybody wants to feel good, everybody wants to say they had a great time in church. But when it comes time to roll up our sleeves, get involved, be a part of kingdom community, do our part, serve, do our part, invest, and do those things that make the kingdom practically work, then all of a sudden we got a problem. And so COVID was just an excuse, and it was just an opportunity for people who really weren't bought into the kingdom to show that they weren't bought into the kingdom, and to show that they really didn't have a discipleship mentality. Because since COVID has gone, and I've said this many, many times, since COVID has subsided, the people, many of those people who call themselves believers, said they love God, said they love his church, have disappeared and no longer show up in the community that allows the church and the kingdom to be expanded. So then what do we say to that? What do we say to that? Because it's not a secret, it's blatant disregard for the kingdom of heaven. It's blatant uh, disrespect and rebellion against the kingdom. And so when you have that problem, then you can't force people to embrace the kingdom. People have to embrace the kingdom because the kingdom is in their heart. If the kingdom is not in your heart, you're not going to do kingdom things. But when religion is in your heart, you're going to do religious things. And you're going to think that those religious things and your consideration of yourself as being somewhat righteous and holy because you don't do certain things more about moral code. You think that's the idea, that's what it is, that's going to get you where you need to be, and you're going to be saved because you decided that you were going to follow these codes and these rules and regulations, and that's totally opposite of what the kingdom teaches. So it's our job to inform you, to educate you. That's what Kingdom Academy is about. In Jesus' day, his religious opposition came from those who were supposed to be very studied and very pious and very committed to the old covenant. You see, the Pharisees were determined to hold on to Jewish customs, the culture, and practices in defiance of Hellenism and Rome. They maintained a strict adherence to the Mosaic law and all the rich and well as rich latter scribal traditions and all sacred writings. They generally believed in the afterlife. Pharisees did believe in the resurrection because it was referred to in Daniel and elsewhere. So that was one religious sect. They held on to Jewish customs. So when the kingdom of heaven comes into play, then those who are religious hold on to those customs that do not promote the kingdom of heaven, but promote the religious traditions of men and those things that they're holding on to. Now we got the Sadducees. The Sadducees were generally drawn from the highest elites. Now, again, you have elitism and people who are religious but elite or have classes of people who say I'm better than somebody else because I have a more prosperous life. I make more money. We make more money. You see this, the law and right. You guys in churches right now were considered the lawyers and the judges go to, and that's the uppity church, and that's the elite church, and that's the prosperous church. And then you got the church that not considered the same, mediocre churches, churches with people of low value or low net worth. Why is that? That in the kingdom of God, it should be no separation, and everybody should appreciate, value, and respect each other as children of God. They did not believe in the afterlife. See, the Sadducees did not believe in the afterlife. They were willing to work closer with the Roman authorities. So now here you go. Sadducees were in the bed with the governmental authorities that allowed Jesus to be crucified. The same way Constantine was a Christian, so he says, and so he proclaimed, and yet he got into the bed with the priest, what they now call the Pope. So the influence of the government was on the Pope, the influence of the Pope was on the government. They worked hand in hand to accomplish their agendas, but not necessarily the agendas of the kingdom. Now you have the Essenes. The Essenes believe in the withdrawal of the corrupt world. They were separatists. like some of these holiness religions. They were separatists. They wanted to separate themselves from a corrupt world. They wanted to live in communes in the desert, and they lived a strict life of celibacy, and they considered themselves holy. They rejected the priesthood and sacrifices of the temple because they were under Roman occupation. Most were non-violent, but a subsect, which we call, what you know as the Zealots, favored violent overthrow of the Romans and did not submit to Roman authority. Why am I telling you about this? Because if you really look close, this is how the Christian church was birthed, and this is the root system of what we call the Christian church. And we can see how the influences of these religions have impacted the belief systems of the church. So many of our churches are steeped in traditions of men, traditions that they follow and live by and die by, that have absolutely no kingdom essence or no kingdom value or no desire to fulfill the kingdom agenda. So now we know that King Herod was the appointee. He was not a popular among the Jews because his mother was Arab. He was generally not considered Jewish. In order to win his favor, he instituted large scale buildings in Judea, largely in Roman funds, and included a new temple. So here you have the government funding the religion that they support, that they know that they are going to support them. Remember, the Sadducees were working closely. They were in bed with the government so that they could keep the control over the people. And so when Jesus came in proclaiming that there is the kingdom of heaven and it is at hand, that's when the conflict showed up. That's why we got conflict today, because if you are a kingdom believer, if you believe in kingdom, if you promote the kingdom, then you're going to have issues with all of these religious traditions, man-made doctrines, churches that use fear and control and manipulation and use the Bible to do it. That's what the Sadducees, Pharisees did in the day that Jesus was there, and that's why they tried everything they could to discredit Jesus, to ultimately destroy him, not knowing that they were really working right into the plan of God, because the Bible said if they would have known what they were doing when they crucified him, they would not have crucified him. Notice again that Jesus did not entangle himself in political parties or religious systems. He simply loved people. He simply said that I have come as the physician to reach the lost. You religious people think you're already good. You religious people don't think you need salvation. You religious people think you have arrived. So I didn't come for you. I didn't come for the religious systems. I didn't come from the governmental systems. I came for lost people. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish and have everlasting life. Our agenda as kingdom people is the world. The same way Jesus went into the hedges and highways and compelled people to come into the kingdom. The same way Jesus did not hang out in the synagogues trying to be in a position, trying to be powerful in the synagogue. The same way Jesus did not get into a relationship with political parties and people who were in politics to try to work his way into a place of influence. We as kingdom people have to understand that we have a responsibility to embrace the loss at any cost. That Jesus has given us a mentality and a attitude that we are to love the lost people. We're to love the hurting people, the people that religious people don't want, the people that religious people will not accept, the people that religious people will snoot their nose up and say, you're not good enough to be a part of us. Jesus said, go out into the hedges and highways and compel them to come. And they brought to Jesus both the bad and the good. And we need to understand that the core issue of the church is not the grain status in the culture and the world that we live in. Our job is to bring people and convert people and show people the power of the kingdom. So I don't have energy to burn running around who's the best president, who's the best senator. No, I should vote my conscience just like you should vote. But at the end of the day, that's it. You are kingdom, and the kingdoms of this world do not have influence and power over the kingdoms of our God. I want you to understand God is still in control. God is still on the throne. And we, as people of God, need to learn how to embrace the kingdom, live in the kingdom, operate and function in the kingdom, and receive the benefits of the kingdom. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all of these things that we need will come to us as a result. I am saying to you and to myself, we have to change our focus and stop trying to fit into culture. Be not conformed to this world. Yes, we have to live in the world. We have to adapt to the world, but we live by kingdom principles and kingdom values. And when we do that, we're going to see our life take a leap. It elevated. We're going to see our personal life elevated, our spiritual life elevated, our relationships elevated. We're going to see the abundance of God take place when we understand we have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and led astray. But that's the culture we've been raised in. We've been raised in religion. We've been raised in all of these things that got us thinking a certain way. But yet the Bible teaches us that when we are in kingdom, when we seek kingdom, we don't spend time judging, criticizing, and destroying other people and fighting over man-made doctrines. It's a shame. There's no way in the world that this precious time that we have should be used fighting over man-made doctrines and men fighting against men and religions against religions and all of that kind of stuff. Listen, I ain't got time to fight against anybody. My job is simply to promote the kingdom, and whosoever will, let them come. And if people decide not to come, that's their business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That's it's not my kingdom. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so many of us have taken and used the Bible, just like the slave masters did. They used the Bible out of context and preached an agenda that would benefit them. That's what they're doing today. And the same people that's saying the slave masters did it, not white people, they're black people that's using that same Bible to promote fear, to promote control, to promote manipulation, to get people under their spell. It is a spirit of witchcraft that many of these people are using, talking about what the slave masters did, but in the reality of it is they are spiritual slave masters. They're not trying to advance the kingdom, they're trying to advance themselves. They're not trying to build up the kingdom, they're trying to make themselves celebrities and superstars in church, in religion. And so many people are following it because they don't have a clue of what the kingdom is about. They don't have a clue about what the kingdom says. They don't have a clue about what it means to be a kingdom. And guess what? This is nothing new. They fought Jesus. They fought the apostles. They fought Stephen. They crucified the apostles. They crucified. They tortured those that were in the church. We've been seeing this historically. So why are we surprised? Why are we surprised that people now are so bound and under the influence and drunk with the wine of religion that they cannot even embrace, hear, understand, and acknowledge the kingdom. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's my job. I'm just the mailman. It's my job, and I believe that it's God's will for me to make sure that I talk about the kingdom. Y'all can get caught up in this dancing and shouting and falling out and speaking in tongues and thinking that you spiritual because you go to church, or you can say, if I'm living the kingdom life, I have an obligation to serve in the kingdom. I have an obligation to sow in the kingdom, and I have an obligation to bring others into the kingdom. And if we're not committed to doing that, we're not kingdom, we're just religious. We're just shouting and going through the motions, preaching, hooping and hollering, preaching the Bible, having revivals, having conventions, and all that foolishness, but no, what's the end result? Are souls being saved? Are we advancing the kingdom agenda, or we're advancing our own agenda because we think that we are God's elite because we are in this religion? I'm this religion, I'm that religion, so that makes me special. No, it doesn't. Jesus says the greatest of you is the servant of all. If you serve well in the kingdom, he says, I will exalt you. But all this self-serving, self-gratifying, self-promotion crap that we see going on in the church, all this foolishness and circuses, the three-ring circus that we see in the church. Listen, at the end of the day, we have been bamboozled, we have been hoodwinked, we have been misled, and it's time for us to get back and understand that the kingdom of heaven is here. And while the Pharisees and the Sadducees chose to stay steeped in their religion and hated Jesus, and they hated the apostles, they hated anybody that promoted the kingdom because they did not want someone to mess with their religion. Yeah, so the church is in all kinds of schemes and things to promote the religion, but when it comes time to promote the kingdom, what are we doing? Thank you, Dr. White, for sharing those words with us this evening. Listen, it's been a blessing. I'm not going to stay up here all night. I'm going to hit hard and I'm going to move on. Join me next Thursday night as we get back into Kingdom Community. I got some more stuff for you. Bring your pens, your paper, and we're going to talk about the traditions that religion has created that now conflict with the agenda that Jesus had. The agenda of religion and the agenda of Jesus are two different agendas. And we got to understand that the enemy is not the sinner. The enemy are these religious people who fail to embrace the kingdom. Jesus said they won't go into the kingdom and they won't let anybody else get into the kingdom by their rules and regulations and their traditions that they have embraced that keep people from understanding and embracing the kingdom. Listen, good night. I love you all. Thank God for you. Thank you for joining me tonight. Share, let your friends know. I'll be back with Kingdom Academy next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Until then, this is Bishop Hawkins saying, God bless you. We'll see you the next time. Stay strong. Let's stay kingdom. The kingdom of heaven is at hand.